The Salween River is one of the longest free-flowing rivers in the world, also known as the Nujiang or Angry River in China. The Salween flows for some 2,815 kilometers from its glacial source 5,400 meters above sea level on the Tibetan Plateau. It then cuts a narrow path through the steep gorges of Yunnan, where it parallels the Mekong River to its east, until finally it empties into the Andaman Sea, near the city of Mulamin in Myanmar. In 2011 saw CERS set off for the source of the Salween, starting from the desert town of Dunhuang.
Today, we're right now in Dunhuang along the Silk Road and the Gobi Desert. And within today, we're going to be moving high up into the plateau and heading for the source of the Salween River. This will be the fourth great river sources that we are seeking after the Yangtze, the Mekong, and the Yellow River.
1985 saw Hao Man make his first discovery, the source of the Yangtze River. And just 1 year later, Hao Man set up CERS.
This expedition also marked the 25th anniversary of CERS founding in 1986. So it's quite exciting that behind me we have a very large team and with scientists, logistic people and filming people, so all as part of the members of this particular expedition. Before getting late, okay, so let's get moving and let's roll out.
The journey to the Salween base camp should take them about 4 days, travelling over 1,000 kilometres from the Kunlun mountain range to the plateau. First they stop at Golmud, picking up good friend Zado, and using maps prepared by Will Ruzek to determine the best route forward.
Tomorrow, as soon as we leave here, we start climbing towards the Kunlun passes, around 4,700 meters. There's 2 routes that we can come in through here to the source, or after you cross here and coming in through this way.
With 5 vehicles in their convoy, one of the largest out-of-pocket expenses is fuel, compounded by the fact that the team have to fill up extra cans for when they venture off-road.
Just gassing up 5 cars in diesel was over 6,000 RMB. So roughly almost 900 US. So, you know, this is hurting our wallet quite a bit in one shot.
As Hao Man recovers from his hefty fuel bill, the team set up camp. From here on, the team has to maintain a high level of self-sufficiency. And it will be down to their own resilience to get them to the source. Whilst Hao Man might know the source's precise latitude and longitude, this does not mean he knows how to actually get there, which dirt road to drive down or which hill to climb. Thus, the team must rely on local knowledge to supplement their own data. Will has all his satellite maps stored on an iPad and navigates via GPS, using the latest technology to ensure the team achieves its objectives. Armed with local knowledge, they can plot their route to base camp with confidence.
Yeah, and I'll let you know that it's once we get to there, if it stays on track, then it should be the right route.
There's no highway to the source, so the team have to make their own road, off-road.
The first road follows a small little stream upwards, kind of where you are right now.
The road changes to dirt track, and soon they find themselves crossing a portion of the Salween River, a sure sign that they are heading in the right direction, and also a portent to warn them that the going will only get tougher.
那些路呢，基本上就是以前老乡压过一点点的路，然后我们这个车上去。但是如果说稍微错开一点点，那么就很容易陷车。
跟进去以后呢，就要靠我们大家，就是大家一起了，把这个车给用那个千斤顶啊，或者用拖车的方法把它拖出来。因为在昨天下午实在就是说大家可能一开始状况都不是太好，因为高山反应特别严重嘛， 所以说挖那个车可能也很费力。
Struggling to get here was quite an ordeal. The terrain was simply overwhelming.
After extracting vehicles from the mud for over 6 hours, the team settle in for a well-earned rest. The next morning, they are greeted by a beautiful day, and it feels like they are within arm's reach of the source.
At the straight line now, we're only 12 kilometers from the source, but going there probably is talking about more like 17 kilometers.
Unfortunately for many of the crew, yesterday's ordeal has left them too unwell to enjoy the beautiful scenery.
We still have a few people sick right now. I wasn't feeling well at all. This morning I'm feeling much better. Taking in those ASAP, the oxygen concentrator, it helped me a lot. So actually it isn't easy work despite the scenery was spectacular.
And even Zado is feeling the effects of altitude.
So he's not feeling well at all. Now, he's born and raised in the Tibetan Plateau. He's never had it this bad. So let's hope that in another half hour he would feel better with this. If not, then we'll administer a little bit of oxygen.
With perfect timing, a nomad family visits the camp, giving the team the opportunity to question them about the local flora and fauna, using CERS's unique picture playing cards.
The local people talk about wildlife, many species that used to be here, which we haven't seen. Older people talk about wild yak, and we've even seen wild yak horns, but no wild yak. So that's a disappointment. But it's an honor to come up to a place that has still so much wildlife.
With the survey finished, it's now time to talk business and negotiate horses for the trip to the source. Once the agreement is made, all that's left for the crew is to have a good night's sleep and pray for fair weather the following day. As the sun broke over the hills, it seemed as if their luck was in. The horses soon arrived, and without delay the team were off to the source of the Salween River.
The Salween is a glacier source. It's known that that glacier is in retreat, as are almost all of the glaciers in this eastern Changtang region. And when you sum all that together, you get major impacts that are going to be felt all across the region downstream.
当然了，从这里你看怒江源头是冰川雪山融化的，所以整个那个唐古拉山脉的这个雪线和雪山的这个冰川的面积和它的变化，对当地的草原和对整个下游地区是特别重要的一个。
Very few people have the chance to come to such a remote place, but they should be concerned about what's going on here.
After a tiring 6-hour horse ride, the team finally reached their destination.
Certainly can't cheat on age. No longer like before. A beautiful glacier. Now, we left on horseback from base camp this morning at 10 to 8. The going was tough, and at this spot where the glacier melting water, we're about 1 kilometer above from what we thought the glacier source started at. So slightly longer than we thought.
Ordinarily, this part of the story would end here, with the team's triumphant celebration at the source. However, the journey was not quite over. The weather started to change, and as the team departed, they were hit by a blizzard. Their Tibetan guides rushed to get them to base camp. But as visibility turned from bad to worse, 3 team members were unwittingly separated from the group. Will Rozek was on foot, but had his GPS, and skillfully managed to catch up with the team. Wang Jihong and myself, Chris Dickinson, were not so fortunate. We'd lost sight of the team and lost sight of each other. It was the first time that I'd ever feared for my life, and to make matters worse, my horse was exhausted. After a mammoth struggle with my horse, I managed to find Jihong again. We had no idea where our teammates were, but just relied on gut instinct to direct us. Fortunately, this paid off, and after an hour, a group of nomad tents emerged from the snow. We were elated, but exhausted. And without question, the good family of Tibetans gave us shelter and food for the night. Finally, our adventure was over, and the next day, we were reunited with the team. And with the saga of the Salween source over, our next destination is the river's midsection, an area known as China's Grand Canyon, where a stunning 4,000-meter gorge takes the river through China's Yunnan province. Fortunately, the altitude and weather conditions were a lot more favourable, and thus Hao Man was able to take some of CERS's patrons as special expedition guests.
Okay, let's get a briefing. All right. Okay, yesterday we're in Kunming, right now we're in Dali.
Okay.
So we're right here at the bottom of the lake. Salween only comes into Myanmar, pass through Thailand as a border a tiny little bit, and then exit through Momian in Myanmar.
According to UNESCO, this region, where the Salween runs parallel to the Mekong and Yangtze rivers, may be the most biologically diverse temperate ecosystem in the world, and has been rightfully designated a World Heritage Site. For thousands of years, the Salween served as the only connection between villages in the region. And even now, the only means of crossing certain parts of the river is by wire bridge, or zip line. It's common not just to see the villagers, but also their goods and livestock taking this death-defying trip across the gorge. This rough terrain has helped to keep these cultures relatively isolated, thus allowing them to maintain much of their traditional ways of life, such as this flour mill. Driving through more populated parts of China inevitably attracts the attention of the public, but the benefit to CERS's team is that they're often treated as special guests by the local dignitaries. And this time, they were honoured to experience the legendary hospitality of the Lisu people. Standing out among many other ethnic groups inhabiting the Salween banks, the Lisu are a very colourful hill tribe group, bent on displaying their hospitality through dancing, feasting and drinking to entertain the expedition members. The most intimate drinking is to have two hosts drinking alongside a guest, sharing one bowl cheek to cheek. The Salween Basin covers a massive 324,000 square kilometres, and the upper region alone is vital to the livelihoods of about 7 million people, including many native cultures, such as the Karen, Nu, Lisu and Mon. However, if the proposal for a series of 13 enormous dams gets the go-ahead, the people of the Salween Basin may not be able to enjoy the abundant fruits of their labours for much longer. And the effects will be felt all the way downstream to the mouth of the Salween, where the majority of the basin's population live, around the Burmese city of Moulamein. Where the river plays an essential role as a thoroughfare for trade, a provider of food and livelihood for the local fishermen, and a source of irrigation for crops. How Man's exploration of the Salween mouth had a chaotic but momentous start. No, this wasn't a reception committee for the CERS team, but instead, coincidentally, they checked into the same hotel as Aung San Suu Kyi, who was campaigning for an upcoming by-election to re-enter Parliament. Such an event would have been inconceivable just 6 months ago, a promising sign of positive change in Myanmar. The mouth of the Salween is sheltered by the Belugian Island, where the waters of the river finally finish their 2,800-kilometre journey to the sea. And this was a fitting spot for Howman and team to explore. First stop would be fishermen working on the estuary.
Okay, now we are pulling up next to this fishing boat. Looks like a couple pulling up the net. Over the years, is there getting more fish or less fish now? Let's say when he was a kid. Going down?
Yeah.
Oh, but price is going up?
Also the price is going down, yeah.
Price is going down, fishery going down. The kids, do they learn to fish or do they all go to the city and work now?
Yeah, some people go to Thailand or Malaysia and work.
Oh, they all go overseas to work, the young people.
Yeah. But they don't,
So the young people don't like fishing anymore?
yeah.
However, the next fishing boat they visited painted a more positive story.
But how long did they live on the boat?
Oh, 3 months already. Yeah.
3 months on the boat already?
Yeah.
So anything interesting like fish getting more or less?
They
They got more and more. What a different story, Bill. And,
maybe different technique.
uh-huh.
Next, the team ventured a little further up the Salween to explore the villages alongside the river. Moulamein is the largest city of the Mon state, which is predominantly Buddhist. And thus it wasn't difficult for the team to find both temples and monasteries not far from the water's edge. Their modest exteriors were found to hide some quite stunning temples inside. One of which had a distinctly European influence to its columns, perhaps as a reflection of Burma's past, when Moulamein had a high Anglo-Burmese population. Back on their fishing boat, there was only one task left to do: to find the last village on the Salween.
It's very important, symbolic for us. This is the last village.
The river's silty deposits allowed the team a free mud spa as they climbed the bank to the village. A location that couldn't have been more of a contrast to the source.
This is crazy.
That was nice, no?
What a nice way. You know, compared to the snow. We're here at the furthest tip of the Salween mouth with the village. This is the very last village before it enters into the bay and the ocean. So even this last village is full of humanity, unlike at the source that, you know, just a nomad camp and hardly anybody there. And this village has over 1,000 households, and people are fishing here, including some, like, you know, 20% of the people here live off the river as fishermen.
Although their visit was unannounced, the CERS team were warmly welcomed by the villagers, and they were even invited as guests to a wedding banquet.
So the bride and the groom, 18 and 24. All right, today is the special day.
There was time for one last walk around this ordinary but very special village at the mouth of the Salween before heading home, leaving their footprints in the sand of a rubber tree plantation.
It's amazing that, you know, from the freezing cold of Tibet and the Tibetan plateau, now we're here in the tropical area in the sweat of it all. So that diversity is just simply amazing.
The beauty of the Salween is self-evident, and the millions of people across 3 countries whose lives depend on it attest to the fact that the Salween truly is one of Asia's great rivers and a treasure of the world.